Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tatiana. I am a business coach and mentor, and I love to inspire women to go for what they want in their lives. And I'm excited for today's video. We're going to be doing a little bit of just a real talk, a chat, and I'm excited about this topic. So I'm doing Vlogmas right now, and I've been receiving different questions, and there were two questions that were really similar, and I felt like I wanted to just do this as a video because I think it's really important, especially when we are talking about entrepreneurship, wanting to start your own business, but also having this whole life going on over here, whether that's being a mom, you know, maybe you're in a relationship, maybe you're married, you have a whole career, you have family members, and just other roles and things that you play, as well as also wanting to make sure that you make time for yourself as a woman. And so I just want to talk today just about what that picture looks like of motherhood and showing up in all of the different areas in your life, but also making sure that your business is still a priority as well. So let's get into it. Okay, so first thing, I am gonna pull up those two questions because I wanna shout those ladies out that submitted a question. So shout out to Takia Clark and also, I think it's Tatiana, really close to my name, Tatiana Monet. So they both had really good questions, and they were just around the whole just wife, mom, you know, juggling different things, kind of, you know, making sure that your business is moving along and growing, your identity and all of those things. And I think so many of us can relate to that because it's really hard, I feel, to 100% show up in all areas and be on 100, you know, be at the top level, be performing at your highest possible capacity in every area of your life. And I know for me, first of all, I'm gonna just say, I know that on this platform, I'm here to encourage and inspire, but I also want you to know that I do not have it all figured out. And this is something that I still struggle with myself. I'm still always constantly reworking things and trying to figure out how to just navigate all of these roles. And especially as I grow, as my family grows, things change. So even once you kind of feel like you're comfortable with one thing, it changes. And especially with motherhood, because you have a growing child, and just when I kind of get comfortable with one thing that my daughter is doing, then I find that, well, now she's no longer doing this, or now she's doing this, and so now it kind of changes the trajectory of things. And so an example of that is even just in the mornings. For a really long time, she was sleeping until like 8:30 in the morning, and now she gets up at like 6 something, and that was huge for me because I had like my whole morning routine, my time, and a lot of that has been taken away. And so it's always a constant adjustment. And so I just wanted to share that first because I never want to come off like I have anything figured out, but at the same time I want to share just some things that have worked for me, and just kind of my thought process of the whole thing, and hopefully this will encourage somebody. So the main thing I wanted to kind of start off with is that I feel that we as women put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be just the best, insert whatever that may be. So the best worker, the best mom, the best wife, the best daughter, you know, whatever the case is. And what I have learned, especially with running my own business while also working at times, I just recently quit my job, but if you know my story, I've been through this process a few times, as well as just even before I became a mom, I worked and actually went into a physical job, just normal hours. And so I had to figure all these things out and how to juggle it. And what I've really learned most is that we have different seasons where certain things take more of a priority over others. And so right now I'm currently in what I consider a busier season for myself pertaining to my business, and that is because I'm in the process right now of getting my orders out. There was a delay with my paper for my printer. There was a delay for my planners, the paper for those planners, and so it pushed back my timeline quite a bit. And so now I am like hustling to try to get them out as quickly as possible. And because of that, I'm more tired, I'm more unavailable, and I'm just not as able to show up in my full ability because I'm trying to make sure I manage everything to get these orders out as quickly as possible, because my priority is that I know that the week of Christmas I'm going to be getting ready to go on my holiday break, and so I want to get everything done and I'm moving as quickly as possible. And so The first thing I would say is just really get in your mind that you are going to have busy seasons. You're going to have seasons where sometimes something just might not get your full attention. And so I always have in the back of my head, what are my priorities in my life? And so for me, my business is within my top priorities. If I had to pick like a top 5, it's always first and foremost going to be my family directly under this roof. So my husband, my daughter, myself, always. My family outside of this, you know, my mom, my grandmother, my sister, my brother, my dad, like my extended family, my in-law, and different things, that's going to be outside of that. Those are important to me. Those are people that are important. So if any of those people needed me, I would drop anything else below my priority list to make sure that this person was okay. So it's definitely about kind of figuring out what is most important to you. And then for me, it's probably not always the most healthy, but my business is right after that, and then it's myself. So that is kind of my top 4, 5. 5 I would say would be friends, and that changes depending on the season. Right now, that is kind of the ranking, if you want to say, of priorities in this season. But there are certain seasons where my friends are right up there in number 1 because I want to show up for them and be 100% on, but it's just not always going to be the case. And so that's the first thing, is just to really understand that you are in different seasons of where sometimes you're busy with something, sometimes you're not. And so different things can kind of get a little bit more of your attention. And then within that, I always feel that it's important to, what I kind of consider them to be, to decide what are your non-negotiables. And so like I mentioned, this is a busy time for me right now. I'm working on getting planners out. I'm doing Vlogmas. Like, there's a lot going on right now in terms of my business life, as well as I still do business coaching. I have one-on-one clients. I have an accelerator program that's going on right now. I have a monthly group call that I do with my Inspire Blueprint clients. So I'm all over the place, right, when it comes to my business. And so I realize that right now this is a busy season, but I know in literally just a week and a half it's going to slow down. And so during this busy season, I don't necessarily sit down and write it down, but I think to myself, okay, right now I know that I need to get these things out. Here's the date of when this will kind of slow down and things will kind of, you know, dip back down to normal. What are the non-negotiables that I need to make sure that I'm doing every single day or every single week? And so what I mean by that is, for me, it's really important that I am the best mom I can possibly be, no matter what. My daughter is very important to me. I want to make sure that I'm showing up for her, especially because she's here at home with me. I am a stay-at-home mom, so I'm here with her. You know, we are through the trenches, okay, y'all, toddler life, you know. And so a non-negotiable for me, of course, is just being a mom, showing up for her, making sure the girl eats and all of those things. But we do online preschool. That is something that I committed to doing this fall with her, and it's important to me that she is learning and that she's getting everything that she can. And so typically when I'm not in a busy season, after the preschool is over, usually I'll work with her, we'll do activities and different things like that. But within this kind of like month period, I knew that that would not be something I could do during this time. And it's just about allowing yourself to be okay with that, to being okay with the fact that, not necessarily looking at it like you're dropping the ball, but that you are just reprioritizing things for now. So the non-negotiable is, no matter what, we do school every morning, Monday through Friday. That's not changing. That's going to be happening. She looks forward to it. We do it every morning. But then after that, I've kind of shifted our routine a little bit to then kind of shift to where she does a little bit more independent play, a little bit more independent activity, so that I can start to work on the planners and start working on the orders to get things out. And so that's really what I mean by non-negotiables. It's kind of the same with like my mom and my grandmother. They are my everything, and they are always something that I'm making time for. And so no matter what, I know that I'm not going to let the whole week go by without talking to them at least once or twice out of the week. Now, typically it ends up being way more than that because, you know, they contact me as well, but I know they want to see Emery. They want to know what's going on with us. And so they're always at the top of my mind in terms of, you know, what I need to be doing. And so you have to just decide what's important. It's the same with my husband. And one thing I would suggest, especially because I saw a wife was in there as well, is to definitely sit down and talk with your significant other to just see what they need from you. And from time to time, I'll sit down with my husband and I'll ask him, like, you know, hey, am I doing enough? You know, like, are you kind of annoyed with me? You know, like, do you wish I was doing this or whatever? Because I get in my head a lot and I'll make assumptions for him. And in reality, you know, know, he's really supportive, he's fine with it, and I'm really blessed for that, because I know sometimes that's not always the case for everyone. And so assuming if that is the case for you, that they are understanding, but you don't want to just completely let them just, you know, make them think like, well, dang, did she forget about me? Is to just have a discussion and to just decide like, okay, how can I show up for you best every day? What are you looking for from me? You know, like the love languages and different things like that. And I find that that helps. And no, I am not the best wife every single day, you know, and especially when I'm in these busy seasons. No, this house does not look pristine and amazing right now because I have other things that I'm prioritizing, but I know that I'll get back around to it. And sometimes as moms and wives, we can be really hard on ourselves about that. So in addition to that, with the non-negotiables, the next thing I would really say is to not compare yourself to your past. And I'm more so meaning your upbringing of whoever raised you, especially like if you have a mother figure or your grandmother or whatever the case is, how you were brought up. If you're bringing that into now your role and feeling like you have to be a mirror image of that, or you have to do the same thing, and then if you don't, you fall short of expectations. I grew up with an amazing mom. Like, this woman did it all, and I just am always like, we still talk about, I'm like, I don't know how you did everything. Like, I don't know how you juggled all of these things. She had 3 kids. I mean, I only have 1, but our situations are so different. The dynamic is so different. I don't live around any family. I'm running a business. I'm a stay-at-home mom. It's a whole different situation from what my mom's situation was when she was raising us. And so for a really long time, I put that pressure on myself to feel like I needed to be just like my mom. And so anytime I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't being like the wife that my mom was, at the time when we were growing up, I felt like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not being a good wife because I'm not packing my husband's lunch every day. And my mom used to do that for my dad. Or my mom is like really crafty and really into different things, but because I run this business, I'm really crafty and creative too, but I don't always have the capacity to do it. And so also when you factor in the fact I don't have family here that I can like let Emery go and hang out with to give me a little bit of some breathing room and so she can do things with them, we don't have that. And so my mom even had to sit down with me and explain to me that like, this is such a different situation. You cannot compare it. And so I'm saying this to you if you feel like, whether you are a brand new mom, whether you've been a mom for a while, maybe you're getting ready to be a mom, is that don't try to feel like you need to live up to whatever that expectation is of our past women that we saw and how they raised different people. Just like my grandmother, she was a single mother. She grinded, she did everything that she had to do. And so I have a lot of different women, my great grandmother as well. She was in my life all the way up until I was 20, almost 22. And so I have a lot of strong women that I watched growing up. And so I take all of the different things that I learned from them and I use that to try to just create some version of what I feel is best, because I'm learning that you have to trust your own intuition when it just comes to motherhood, because no one is going to know best like you, especially because it's your household and it's your child, right? And so you have to make the best decisions that work for your dynamic, and that's something that can be difficult for a lot of us. It's definitely more of a mental thing, and it's something that you have to remind yourself to reprogram yourself almost when you've seen something a certain way done growing up and you have to kind of shift from that. That can be difficult to maneuver through, you know. And once you realize that there's always going to be different seasons and sometimes things will be a little more busier than others, it makes it a little bit easier for you to give yourself grace when you can't do it all. When you have to say no to a friend that wants to go hang out and go to dinner or something, but you know you got something else you need to do, you know, you have to just kind of accept that there's going to be those times. And when you have people in your life that are understanding of that, or when you have a conversation with those people to get them to understand that, it just makes it so much easier for you when you're trying to navigate through this. And running a business, when you add that layer on, it's just something that is even more so where you have to really want it. When you have all of these other things going on and you're working a 9-to-5 as well, and then you decide, okay, I think I'm gonna start this business, you have to want it. And that is because it's already so exhausting and overwhelming with just the normal day-to-day life stuff. So then when you decide that now you want to add in this business, this is going to be another thing. And so for a lot of us, that means getting up a lot earlier. That means going to bed a lot later. Or in my case, when I was working my 9 to 5, when I first started the Stationary Muse back in 2016, I had a pretty laid back job for the most part. We had busy seasons at my job too, and that was times where I accepted that like I was literally go, go, go from the moment I got in to the moment I left. But majority of the time, I was pretty much chilling in my office. And so that would be the time where I would get on and I would watch videos on how to do InDesign. That was when I would design my planner inserts. That was when I would design graphics for sales and social media content. That was when I would do that, because I had the time. So I leveraged that. I took advantage of the fact that I had like my lunch times, or I had my downtime in my office, and that's what I would work on. And so you have to really figure out within your day, and this is a real question to ask yourself, do I realistically have the time to start this business? Where are pockets within my day that either I'm scrolling, you know, when you're doing something that you know is not required of you. If you're scrolling on your phone, if you're watching a whole bunch of YouTube videos, if you're gossiping with somebody, you know, whatever the case may be, if you're doing anything that is not required of you, if it's not one of those non-negotiables for you, that is where that business will fit in. That is where you'll find the time to grow it and sit down. And one of the things one of my business coaches always says is you want to fill it with revenue generating activities. So when you are starting your business, you want to think about, okay, I'm trying to build my audience right now, which should be one of the first things that you're focusing on. Not so much selling to the audience, but really building and growing that audience. How can I do that? How can I get people on my email list? What can I do to provide value to people through my content? How can I show up consistently through my everyday? And also defining what consistency means for you. So don't feel like you need to be showing up on the gram or whatever, showing up on YouTube, posting your content every single day of the week. What does consistency look like for you? So for me, consistency is definitely not every single day. I like to show up 2 to 3 times a week, and that is what it is, okay? And so that might be me sending out an email, that might be me posting a reel on Instagram, maybe I'll show up on stories a few times throughout the week, and then I post a YouTube video. And so that's enough for me to feel like I'm being consistent. Now, if a whole week goes by and I don't show up at all, if I don't do anything, that's usually intentionally because I'm taking a break, or I don't know, or something has come up. So you have to really define what consistency means for you as well, because you can't compare to someone that is posting 5 times a week. You don't know nothing about their dynamic. You don't know what they have going on and what gives them the capacity to be able to show up that consistently like that. So you have to define it for yourself, and that all just really goes back to that comparison thing I mentioned, you know, like of comparing to like your mom or whatever the case is. Don't compare your right now to someone else's part in their journey. You're at step A or B or wherever you might be. They might be at step Y. So you have no idea, you know, how they got there. You don't know how they kind of started in the beginning and different things like that. The important part is that you show up. It's better than not showing up. The important part is that you put in an hour versus not putting in any time. And so don't feel like just because you can't take a whole day to dedicate to your job, that doesn't mean that you're not doing good enough. If you got 30 minutes of free time, downtime, take that time to research something. Take that time to start designing something. If you have a couple hours on the weekend, or maybe if you have kids and your family can watch your kids for a little bit, take that time to sit down and brainstorm out what you want to do for Q1 next year. That's really how you have to do it. You really just have to prioritize your business. You have to sacrifice the time, and you have to be willing to give yourself grace when you cannot do it all. I always talk about Laura Casey. I'm obsessed with her. I'm obsessed with Cultivate What Matters. It's probably my favorite brand, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. Outside of my own brand, it's probably my favorite brand. But she always says you can't do it all and do it well. And I just love that, because it's true. It's like we cannot do it all and do it well. There's no balancing act happening over here. I'm not having all of the balls in my hand at one time. Something is gonna fall, but I always make sure that my daughter, my husband, they are always being held in my hand no matter what. And so you really have to identify that and accept that. And so I hope that that makes sense. I hope that this conversation helps you guys a little bit, because I know that it's difficult. It's to figure it out, and especially when you look at somebody online or you look at someone with a business that's growing and you're like, dang, how do they do it? How do they find the time? I can barely even remember what I had for breakfast. I can barely even get up in the morning. Like, where would I find the time? And I get it, but that is where you have to have an honest conversation with yourself to see, is this something I can realistically do right now? How important is it to me to make it happen? And that is just the honest truth. If it's not as important to you, then you won't get up earlier. You won't stay up a little later. You won't make the time on your lunch break, right? You'll just continue to kind of go through life, and in the back of your head, you'll be like, dang, that'd be cool if I did start that business. But if it's really that important to you, you will take those 10-minute pockets, the hour pocket throughout the time that you have to start slowly growing the business. And it might not go at the rate that you want it to go, but it will eventually happen. And this is my truth. This is something that I have done myself. So I know that it is possible. It's just a matter of having that conversation with yourself. And the other thing I wanted to touch on as well, this was part of Tatiana's question, was just about that whole thing of just like losing your identity, just with all of the different roles that I play. And then also any tips for self-love, keeping self-identity, independence. And so that's the last thing I'm going to touch on. I think the biggest thing I will say is that before I had even before that, what I'll say, I always have just been very, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, I'm a Leo, y'all, so maybe that could be why, I don't know. But I've always been very self-focused. And I don't mean selfish. I'm not selfish by any means. I will do anything for anyone. I'm a very caring person. But I have always thought about myself as well. So when I've been in I thought my necklace broke. I was about to be like, what? When I've been in relationships in the past, I have my time to where, I might have like let somebody walk over me for a little bit, or I kind of let them do their little thing for a little bit. But then I always would come back to like, okay, I deserve better than this. And it usually wouldn't take too long to realize that. And the same thing with just after I graduated from college, and then with my situation, if it didn't work out, I've always been really hard on myself with my expectations of what I expected of myself. And so with that being just kind of part of my makeup, like the qualities that I have, I think that that naturally has carried into me being a mom and a wife, because when I wasn't either of those things, I always knew that I had set goals, I had set expectations for myself, things that I wanted to see happen. And so once you bring in a husband and you bring in children and different things like that, yes, they do in a way, I wouldn't even necessarily say take away identity, but you are a different person. Every time you add on something like that, when I got married, I was a different woman than I was prior to that. When I became a mother, I was a different woman prior to now what I am. And that's because they have added to my life. They didn't take anything away from me. I'm still the same woman that wants to see herself succeed, see herself set up the next generation. I'm still that same girl that was from the back then, the one that wanted to like blow up and perform and be on stage. I'm still that same girl, but I just have a different dynamic now. And so I think the biggest thing I would say, and I know everybody is different, is just look at becoming a mom or look at becoming a wife as it adding to your life, and not you feeling like you have to take away pieces of yourself in order to show up to the role the right way, if that makes sense. But that's how I look at it. And so what that looks like in my day-to-day life is that as much as I love my daughter, I'm gonna do everything for her. I'm gonna make sure she has everything she needs. I also want her to see that it is okay to have a life outside of your family. It's okay to go for the things you want to do, and it doesn't make you any less of a person or any less of whatever role that you show up in just because you're prioritizing your own needs. And so it's not like that every day. And I want to point that out. It's not like that every day. But if a couple days go by during the week and I'm like, dang, I haven't really done a whole lot for the business, or I haven't really done a whole lot, shoot, I haven't even had a breather, I've been up in this mug and I ain't had a chance to get out of here and just take a breath, I will quickly tell my husband, like, yeah, I'm getting ready to go, I need some time to myself, I'll be back in a little bit. And he'll be like, okay, see when you get back, right? So it's just a matter of me knowing I want to show her that. I don't want her to think that, even for her, when she gets older, that she has to always be like just up in her children's face all of the time, that like she can have her own life outside of that. And so it doesn't make me any less of a mother. It doesn't make me any less of a wife because I don't want to be here 24/7. And that's, when I'm saying it, I'm even almost hesitant to say it because I know some people will look at it and be like, what? But it's true. Like I have so many dreams and things that I want to do in my life. And so I am okay with not always being here 24/7. And even though I was just telling my husband the other day, I have never been away from my daughter since she's been born. So that means for the last 3 years, and let me see, September, October, November, December, 3 years and 4 months, I have never been away from that little girl, ever. And I was telling him, like, the day that I do have to like go do something, or that's gonna be crazy because I've never been away from her. But even with that, I still make time for myself. And that's gonna look different for everybody. And so that's the biggest thing I would say with identity, and just realizing that you are taking on these roles. They are important. You do need to show up for these people. They rely on you. But you have to remember that you're relying on you as well. And if you aren't filling your cup, I mean, it's a corny phrase, but if you don't feel full yourself, then you are never gonna be able to fill anybody else up. If you're empty, then everybody else is gonna be. So that's how I look at it, and that's just how I kind of go into every day. And again, every day is different. There's some days where I literally was playing all day with this girl in here and laughing and watching videos with her, and then she goes and takes a nap and I look up and I'm like, dang, I haven't even been on Instagram yet. And those moments are amazing because I'm like, I had just time with my daughter and it was great. But then there's other mornings where, we get up kind of similar to right now and we do her school, we talk, we laugh. But then I'm like, hey, Emery, I need you to play over here. Mommy has to get some work done, or mommy has a call. So it's about, I hate to say the word balance because I don't want it to seem like I'm balancing everything. But in a way, it's like, I don't always just have her in front of a screen every day, but are there times where she is? Yes. I don't always myself sit in front of a screen all day and do work all day, but does that happen sometimes? Yes, it does, because I have to make sure that I'm always keeping my priorities in order and making sure that I'm doing the best that I can. And do I make mistakes? Yes, I do. Are there days where I look up and I'm like, dang, I ain't getting nothing done? Yes, I do. But at the end, I feel like that is just kind of where I'm at with everything. And yeah, so I hope that helped. That was basically all that I wanted to share. And I hope that whoever might be watching this video, that you feel encouraged through this, and just know that God never gives you anything that you cannot handle. So if God has placed it on your heart to start a business and you're trying to figure out how to fit that in on top of just all of these other different things, just know that He will make a way for you. It will happen. Don't give up. And as just a last thing, just never forget the little girl inside of you, the dreams that she had. Always keep that in the back of your mind so that you can always remember that through your day-to-day, so you can prioritize what you want to do within your life. And one thing that I'm working on personally for myself is, even though I've mentioned I'm really great with prioritizing my business and family and things like that, and I fall off, like I said, one thing I do not do very well is prioritizing my own personal needs, which is very different from my business. A lot of times I get confused with the fact that I'm getting my time for myself with my business. And so I'm really trying to figure out what that looks like for me, because my interests when I was younger are a lot different than they are now. And so I mean, honestly, prioritizing me is just taking a nap. It's getting a little bit of quiet time. It's walking around in Target. It's when the spring comes, starting a garden. That's kind of what prioritizing myself looks like, and so I fit those in when I can as well. And so it just, like I said, it changes from week to week, but it's all about doing the best that we can. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely subscribe if you enjoyed this. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.